How y'all doing?
Today, I will be showing you the exact portfolio presentation that I did to get the job offer at Google, Amazon, and twice at Facebook. Let's get to it. Before getting started, some of you might be wondering what I've been doing in the past couple months. Well, I've been posting on TikTok. So when COVID started, just like everybody else, I decided to give TikTok a try, and I quickly realized that it is one of the best platforms to grow an audience. I wrote an article about this on Medium, and then I just decided to make my own TikTok. And things went very well for me. I had a few hits, videos that got millions of views on TikTok and even Twitter, and I built a following of about 55,000 people so far. So if you haven't seen my TikTok, I highly recommend that you have a look at it before it gets banned in the US. So I've talked about the portfolio presentation a few times in my past videos. This is one of the many steps that you will need to go through to get a job at a big tech company. This is the step where you present about yourself and about your portfolio in front of a group of maybe 6 to 12 people. Now, this is one of the most stressful part of the entire process, particularly if you worry about public speaking. But don't worry, because I will be showing you exactly the portfolio presentation that I've done to get a job at these big tech companies. Mind you, the portfolio presentation is about 45 minutes long, so this video will be slightly longer than the previous one. So to help you, I will be adding timestamps in the description down below, so make sure to have a look at it if you don't want to watch the entire thing. Alright, let's get to it. So here's the presentation, but before I go into it, here's a breakdown of how you should do such a presentation. First off, you start with a small introduction for about 5 minutes where you talk about yourself, about your past experience and your education. Then you show between 2 to 3 projects from your portfolio, and you spend between 10 to 15 minutes per project. Finally, you do a small 5-minute conclusion, and you reserve the last 5 minutes for questions. So here's the presentation. Hello everyone, my name is Tony Aube and I'm a product designer. Before I show my portfolio, here's 7 interesting things you should know about me. First of all, I'm from Quebec City, Canada, so some of you might have recognized it from my accent. I'm actually a native French speaker. Second, I like to write about design and tech, so for the past 5 years in my spare time, I've written a lot of articles about technology and design, and I've been published in some of the big publications such as TechCrunch, Vendredi, and NextWeb. Third, I like to give design and tech talks. So similarly, for the past 5 years, I've been traveling all around the world, giving talks about topics such as design, AI, AR, mixed reality, and blockchain in all of these different cities. Fourth, I have a background in motion design. So my first job out of school was actually a motion designer back at my university. Fifth, I did my master thesis back in school on UI animation. So I leveraged all of my knowledge about animation that I learned from working as a motion designer into my thesis, which was how to use animation to improve the user experience on the web and in applications. Sixth, back when we were in school, we did a student design competition. So our team was selected among 200 applications, and we got to fly to Paris in France for the CAI 2013 conference. And we presented, and we ended up winning the first place, which was an incredible experience. I'm extremely grateful for that. But even more importantly, when we were there at the conference, we got to meet with a lot of different people working at the big tech companies in Silicon Valley, such as Google, for example. And this is where I realized that this is actually the kind of job that I want to do in my career. So once I was done with school, I decided to travel to California and try to apply to all of these big tech companies, especially Google. Ultimately, I ended up getting a job at Osmo, which was a startup back then. I was one of the first employees, and I was the first designer working over there. So for the past 5 years, I've been the lead designer at Osmo. And now, before I go too deep into the portfolio, I'm just going to show you a quick overview of everything that I've worked on at Osmo. So for those of you who don't know what Osmo is, it is basically an augmented reality educational gaming platform for kids. The way it works is that we put a mirror on top of the camera like this, which redirects the camera towards the table. From there, we can use artificial intelligence to understand what's happening on the table. And we've used this platform to create all sorts of different educational gaming experience for kids. So for example, we have games to teach you English, such as this one. We have game that teaches drawing, math, coding, etc. So like I said, we use a mirror that we place on top of the camera, and this redirects the camera towards the table. From there, we use computer vision, which is a form of AI, to understand what's happening and to create all sorts of interactive experience. I was the first design hire at Osmo, and since I've joined, we've grown the business to a high 8-figure revenue. We've grown the team to over 70 employees. We've shipped over 14 apps. Osmo is being sold in over 50 countries around the world, and we've won dozens of innovation and design awards, such as these ones. So at Osmo, I've worked on pretty much every single design front, starting with the website. When I joined, the website was essentially a very simple landing page. And we've grown it into a fully fleshed out website, including a fully functioning e-commerce that brings in dozens of millions of dollars in revenues every single year. I've also worked on different types of platforms. So for example, MyOsmo, which is a web platform that allows parents and teachers to build customized Osmo experience for the kids. I've also worked on pretty much every single product that we have shipped, including all of the games. Also, when I joined, the only branding element for Osmo was the logo. So I was able to expand upon that by deciding different types of fonts and colors and icon style to create this very fun Osmo brand that we now have today. I also got to work on a few of the game icons, so I didn't do all of them. I don't consider myself an illustrator per se, but in some cases when I was working on the games, there was nobody else that could do them back then, so I ended up doing a few of them myself. But my biggest contributions to these icons was deciding the overall style and art direction for them. So for example, what kind of color, shapes, and texture, and what's the direction of the light and shadows. All of that so Osmo can have a very consistent icon style that it has today. I also did a lot of photography work for Osmo, so if you go on the website today, you will see some of the photos I've taken myself. When I started working there, I was the only designer. We didn't have a lot of money to hire photographers all the time, so I ended up having to take some of these photos myself, including the team's photos, which I find to be a lot of fun and very colorful. Since then, we've hired photographers, so I don't do this that much anymore. Some of the favorite shots that I've done for Osmo are what we call the hero games shots. So every time we will come up with a new game, we will always try to come up with these very fun, imaginative, aspirational photos that kind of show the theme of the game itself. And I've done all of the editing for these shots myself, and this is some of my favorite work that I've done at Osmo because of how bright and colorful these are. I've also been involved in the videos themselves, so every time we finish a new game, there's always this moment where the whole team comes together and try to figure out what's the best way we can communicate what the game is about and we can advertise it to the parents and to the teacher. So we usually hire external studios to shoot and edit the video, but in the early brainstorm, I'm always there because I've been so involved with the game. Also, because I have a background in motion design, I've done a lot of animation for Osmo. Of course, there's a lot of UI animation in the games themselves, but when I had a little bit of time on the side, I will do some of these animation like this one, which is an ad for one of our games. And this in particular was a very impactful project because this is an animation that I've done in a single day of work, so only 12 hours. And this video has over 500,000 views on YouTube. So this was a very impactful single day project from me. Now I'm going to talk about two of the latest projects that I've done at Osmo, which is Osmo Super Studio and Osmo Detective Agency. So everything started about 8 months ago when Disney came to us and asked us to produce a drawing game for them. So Osmo already has a drawing app which is called Masterpiece, and the way it works is that it uses augmented reality to project lines of a drawings upon your sheet of paper, and you can just follow the lines to learn to draw any types of drawing that you want to. So the whole idea with Disney was that we will do the same exact things, except we will be teaching kids how to draw different types of Disney character. Now, the problem with this was that our expectation of how well the kids would perform was very, very far from reality. And the problem was that the target audience that Disney was going for was much younger, and the kids could not properly use the augmented reality app to properly trace the character. And upon testing the game, we quickly realized that it was not working at all. Because when a kid would draw the character, they could compare their result to the projected drawing, and they could see that they didn't match the ideal drawing at all. And kids hated it, and this was terrible for us because the whole point of the game was to show to kids that drawing can be fun, and we were having the complete opposite effect. So the problem was that there was a huge mismatch between the experience that we were trying to build and the target's audience age. And the challenge was to try to make drawing fun and accessible for younger kids. So the solution that we came up with was to try to focus on imagination and fun rather than technique and learning to draw. So at this point in the project, this was me plus one more engineer for about 2 weeks trying to brainstorm ideas around that solution. So here's a few explorations that I did. So the first one that I thought was, what if we just simplify the drawing? Rather than try to draw Mickey Mouse, could the kids draw, for example, a basketball? And this didn't quite work because drawing a basketball is not very fun and exciting for kids. We tried a bunch of other things, for example, this frame-by-frame animation. We tried simplifying the drawing so you only draw one of two frames and then we animate the whole thing, trying to give you a very nice payoff for the least amount of work possible. There was also this idea where you draw different body parts separately and then the app combines the body part together and then animates the character. And this, by the way, Disney completely hated because they hate seeing Mickey Mouse being animated that way. In the end, what we came up with was that you will have the whole Disney character on the page, but there will be an empty area in which you can add any types of detail that you want. So here's a video that showcased the idea.
Anger doesn't like being dull. Can you draw some hair on Anger's head?
Yeah, give me something stylish. Oh yeah, that's it. Can't wait to show everybody. Darn it. This is why I can't have hair.
So at this point, we knew that we had something very interesting. And what's most interesting with this video is that it is completely fake. What I did is I printed out the sheet of paper, brought it in front of an iPad with the green screen, and then I just pretended to be interacting with the game. Then I brought all of that footage into After Effects, including the UI, the sound effect, and the music. The voice of the character is actually Stanley, one of our backend engineers. And I created this whole entirely fake video that showcased the ideal experience that we're trying to build. And I found that these videos were extremely helpful at communicating the ideas to the rest of the team, but also to the different stakeholders, both at Osmo and at Disney. And the reason for that is whenever you build a website or a mobile app these days, you have all of these amazing prototyping tools. For example, Adobe XD or InVision. But when you try to create mixed reality experience, you have none of that. And what I find is that video and After Effects are actually your best friend to prototype the idea and communicate it to the rest of the team. Also, at this point in the project, we were tasked with making the pencil feel much more valuable. And the reason why is that the game was going to be shipped with just a pencil and it was going to be sold for $30 or $40. And buying a pencil for $30 feels very expensive for the customer. So we're trying to find some ways to make the pencil feel more unique that will justify the price point for the game. One idea that I came up with was I realized we could remove the eraser from the pencil and replace it with, for example, some Mickey ears. And then we can use these Mickey ears with computer vision to make the pencil some sort of interactive magic wand. So here's another video that I made building upon that idea.
Help Dory find her friends. Use the magic pencil to find them.
Woohoo, you found me! So once again, this was a completely fake video. I just printed out the sheet, pretended to be interacting, and then brought everything into After Effects with the music, the UI, and the sound effect. So at this point, I knew that the idea was very interesting, but because all of the engineers were already at work on the other idea, I had to prove that the idea was good just by myself. So the way I did it was I just connected my iPad to the computer, so you can see here with the cable, and I just gave the sheet to the kid, told him to find a character. And I was looking at the kid, and every time he will find a character, I will adjust the layers in Photoshop so that the screen will match the experience. And this completely worked. None of the kids that I tried this with realized that they were not playing a real game. And this was a very quick prototype that I built in just half a day. And all of the kids that I tried it with wanted to do it over and over again afterwards. So when you have a very scrappy prototype like this and people want to do it over and over again, this is where you know you have a very good idea. So at this point we had two concepts. So we had the look and find game and the interactive drawing game. So we brought these two ideas to the Walt Disney Company in LA. and they completely didn't like the look and find game. And the reason why was because they said that it looked way too similar to their I Found It board game. And I don't think it was that similar, but it didn't matter in the end because they absolutely loved the interactive drawing concept. So the interactive drawing game ultimately became Osmo Super Studio, and we've shipped it with Mickey Mouse, with the princesses, and also with the Incredibles just in time for when the movie came out. And it's been a very successful product. Then there is Osmo Detective. So I was very bummed out that Disney didn't like the look and find idea because I thought it had a lot of potential. But then I started thinking, and at some point I realized that this was actually a blessing in disguise. And the reason why was because we didn't have to do the game with Disney, I realized that we could do so much more with it. For example, we could fully embrace the detective theme, which is essentially what you're doing when you're playing the game, right? You're trying to find a hidden object within a scene, which is what a detective does. So we just went all in on that theme. We replaced the Mickey Mouse ears with a magnifying glass, which is the tool that detectives use. And also we replaced the Disney illustrations with map of cities around the world. And this was a huge win because it allowed us to add this whole new educational component to the games that we could have never done if we stuck with Disney. Now, when you will play the game, you will get to travel to big cities around the world, such as New York, and you will get to learn about the culture of these countries, which is, I think, the most exciting part with Osmo is the fact that all of our games have this educational component. And if we stuck with Disney, we would not have had it with that game. So at this point, we did the Dream Week, which was me plus 2 engineers and 1 artist. For the duration of 1 week, we tried to make a very good prototype. This is what we ended up with.
Good day, young gumshoe. We have a most important job for you. Your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to find Mo and bring him back to us at once. His last known location was in front of the Eiffel Tower. You must go to...
By the way, this was Kevin, or a content at Osmo.
I've seen the big orange monster, but my dog is very hungry. Please find 3 bones so I...
Then we presented the prototype to the Osmo stakeholder and they absolutely loved it. They greenlit the project and from there we built the actual game. So at this point, this was me as the product lead plus the design lead, working with 2 engineers, 2 artists and 1 producer for about 6 months. And ultimately this became Osmo Detective Agency, which just shipped. And it's been one of our best-selling games so far with very, very nice customer reviews. Now I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into the biggest UX challenge that we faced when designing that game. And that challenge was teaching the kids to move the map. So what you need to understand about Osmo is that we have a very limited play area. And that's because of the size of the camera and also the size of the mirror that we place on top of the camera. This wasn't a problem for the first prototype because it was only on a single sheet of paper that fit perfectly within the play area. However, what we realized is that what makes this kind of look and find experience compelling is, for example, if you think of Where's Waldo, you have like these gigantic books that you can just get lost into the world and into all of the details of the illustration. And this is what we were trying to do with this game. So we knew that we had to have very large maps to make the game compelling. So the problem is, for example, if you have to find the Eiffel Tower, but it is outside of the play area, the kid would place the magnifying glass on top of it, but the game would not detect it. So the kid would just be sitting there, not understanding why it's not working, because the kids have no concept of this limited play area. So the challenge was to teach the kid to actually physically move the map before they put the magnifying glass on top of the Eiffel Tower. So from this point, I tried a bunch of different ideas, like prompts that will teach the kids to move the map, animations. None of this was working. Basically, the kids would just be looking at this and they would not understand what they are asked to do. So at some point, we tried to change things a little bit and we decided to do a onboarding flow that will teach the kid to move the map. So what we did is that we placed the first object you need to find on the left side of the map. And then when you need to find it, we will play this video.
Find the clue on the map. When you've found the Eiffel Tower, slide the map so Moya can see it, and then point it out with your magnifying glass.
Then we will place another object at the complete opposite end of the map, and then we will play another video like this one.
When you found the dog park, slide the map so Whitaker can see it, and then point it out with your magnifying glass.
And so on, and this really worked. The kid will watch the video, they will move the map, so it completely solved the problem. But what we notice is after 10, 15, 20 minutes of playing, they will forget about it, and then we will be facing the same problem once over. Also, I found that the video were not ideal because they were interrupting the gameplay and they were bringing kids back into the real world. So the final solution that we came up with was to use the game character to passively teach moving the map. So here's the evolution of the UI. So you can see the first version of the UI, you basically had a list of things you needed to find within the city. So we reduced this whole area to a single corner of the screen, which liberated some space, for example, at the top of the screen where you could place a character that works with you to find the different things you need to find. So the way it works is that if you place the magnifying glass on the left, then the character will look to the left. If you place it to the right, the character will look to the right. But most importantly, if you place the magnifying glass outside of the play area, the character will not see it, so he will just look at you confused. And this worked perfectly because maybe the kid don't understand the different prompts and graphics that you place to tell them to move the map, but they understand when the character is confused and is not seeing the magnifying glass. So in a way, the character eyes represent the Osmo eyes, and kids completely understand that. So here's how it works. So you can see in the UI, we also added a representation of the magnifying glass and a representation of the map as well. So when you move the map, you actually see some feedback from the screen that the movement of the map is detected. And this kind of subconsciously teach the kid that moving the map has an impact on the game. Then, if we remove the magnifying glass, the character is confused. He's not seeing the magnifying glass anymore, so he just looks at you, and after a while, he asks you to place the magnifying glass in front of the iPad. Also, if you remove the map, then the character doesn't see the map anymore and asks you to place the map in front of the iPad. And this was such a genius solution because not only it solved all of the problem with the kids not understanding why the game was not seeing the magnifying glass, but also it also made the game so much more compelling because now you have this side character that is working with you, trying to solve the issue with you. And I think that this character adds so much more depth and fun to the game itself. So this is a very good example of how solving a UX problem actually made the whole product 10 times better. So here's a video of the prototype that we built. And as you can see, the character recognizes the magnifying glass, follows it. And as soon as it is outside of the play area, then he doesn't see it and he's confused. So in conclusion, we went from these two concepts, the look and find game and the interactive drawing. Both of them became real Osmo games that we have actually shipped and have been very successful. The whole thing lasted for about 8 months. During the first 2 weeks, I created dozens of very quick prototypes to try to flesh out the ideas and try to come to something that works. This led to successfully shipping the 2 latest Osmo games. I ended up leading a team of about 6 people. And this also led to a successful partnership with Disney. So thank you so much for watching this presentation. And now I believe we have a few minutes to answer questions if you have them. So that's it for the portfolio presentation. As you can see, it is not that bad. You don't need to have perfect UI, you don't need to have perfect UX. I certainly don't think that I have the perfect portfolio. One of the main reasons why I think I did so well in all of these portfolio presentations is that I was able to show that I could have a lot of impact on successful projects on which I was deeply responsible for. This is the hardest thing to fake in a portfolio. It's very easy to fake that you have good UI or good UX, but like very positive impact on a project on which you have a lot of skin in the game. This is a very good signal to the employer that you're a great candidate. Also, I was able to show that I could take leadership and come up with creative ideas for both the solution and also every single step on the way to getting there. Finally, I was able to show all of this in a very neatly packaged stories. So storytelling is extremely useful for these types of portfolio presentation. So that's it for this video. I really hope that you have enjoyed it and that you learned something from it. If you did, feel free to smash the like button and subscribe to my channel because I will be posting more videos like this in the future. If you haven't seen my TikTok yet, I highly recommend that you have a look at it before it's too late. You can also follow me on Medium, on Twitter, and on Instagram. See you in the next video. Ciao!